The most amazing 4 days of Kingdom history was the fact that we were able to get Andy Reid, and everything changed within a week.
The Kansas City Chiefs have won the AFC West in 2016.
It was good for me because I had perspective of time in the wilderness.
The Chiefs have won the AFC West title, winning the division back-to-back for the first time in franchise history.
To be able to be 2-14 seasons thinking that the franchise is going nowhere.
Your Kansas City Chiefs are the AFC West champions again.
Could we be someday like the Patriots and the Steelers or successful teams over time? We become that. We become that.
They've done it for a 6th consecutive year. That has never happened in the history of the AFC West.
Sometimes I didn't think I'd get this chance, but I kept fighting and kept grinding and thinking maybe someday.
The Chiefs held on to win their 10th game of the season last week, and with a shot at the division title right there for the taking here today, they'll look to keep things rolling and take care of business in a matchup against the Houston Texans. We are 2 hours from kickoff. You've waited all week for this very moment. It's finally here. It is time for football in Chiefs Kingdom. Let's do this. My name is Matt McMullen, joined by voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus. This is Field Pass, presented by StorageMart. And Mitch, it's very simple for the Chiefs here today. If they can win this game against Houston, they'll lock up a 7th consecutive division title.
So I just posted on Twitter a picture of Jackie Slater, who played in the league 22 years. He was part of the 1979 Rams. They won the West in the NFC 7 straight years. It would be truly historic for the Chiefs to win today. It would be second all-time in division dominance behind only the Patriots from 09 to 19. So to win the division on this field would be awesome.
It'd be incredible. I mean, it'd be ridiculous, right? Like, this league is built on parity. You're not supposed to be able to be good every year.
Let's back up to May, June, July, August even, where the Chiefs were going to be covered in coal dust and the AFC West was going to just blow past them. Okay.
Yeah.
Things are different. Take care of business today.
Yeah, we're texting each other in June saying this one will be the sweetest, and here we are in December. We have a shot at winning the division title here today. Got to take care of business, though, like you said, and sure, the Texans are 1-11-1 this season. That's the worst record in the NFL, but they nearly beat the Dallas Cowboys just last week.
This team still has a lot of capabilities, especially on defense. I know we're going to deep dive into it in a second. But, yeah, I mean, that game last week, if anybody in the Chiefs Kingdom thinks it's going to be, and I hate the phrase now, roll out your helmet. I hear that a lot from people who cover the team. Just roll your helmet out there. Even former players, I'm like, what are you talking about?
Not in the NFL.
Not in the NFL. And the Texans were at the 1-yard line and a chance to beat the Cowboys and would have taken the Cowboys season on a big turn. So, no, the Chiefs have got to come to play.
Now, one of the reasons the Texans were in that game and nearly won that game was their ability to force turnovers. They had 3 takeaways in that game, including 2 interceptions by former Chief Tremon Smith. Their ability to force turnovers is the great equalizer, right? Turnovers are the great equalizer whenever it's maybe a mismatch on paper. And look at last week for the Chiefs. 3 interceptions by Patrick Mahomes in that game kept Denver in the ballgame. So hopefully they can clean that up here today. Cannot let Houston hang around in this game.
No, don't let the zombie in the door. We say that a lot when you're a heavy favorite. The Chiefs are a 2-touchdown favorite. But Houston looks for the takeaway. They have 17 takeaways this year. That's not usual for a 1-11-1 team. And last week against the Cowboys, this is a mind-blowing stat. They tipped or altered 11 passes of Dak Prescott. They look to alter, tip, take. And so the Chiefs have got to be wary of that when they have the ball.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes last week had 3 interceptions, as I mentioned. Does not happen very often for him. It was only his 3rd 3-interception game of his career. Still lots of Mahomes magic in that game as well, just otherworldly plays by Patrick Mahomes. Hopefully the Mahomes magic continues in this game and we don't have the interceptions here in this one. But one thing that makes his life certainly much easier is the performance of this Chiefs backfield right now. Isaiah Pacheco rushed for 70 yards on 13 carries last week. He's one of only 4 players with at least 60 rushing yards in each of his last 5 games. He's really gaining steam in this offense. And also Jerick McKinnon, how about him? I call him the sneaky MVP on this team. He had 7 catches for 112 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Chiefs have some thunder and lightning in their backfield right now.
When you look at last week's game, those two combined for 27 touches for 229 all-purpose yards. And they are a great complement to one another. Sometimes you'll have a 2-back system and there's replication. These two are a perfect fit, like piecing together a Christmas puzzle. But then let's add Ronald Jones the second to the equation today. I look for him to get 6 to 8 touches in this game, and I think he could have an impact today and through the rest of December.
Yeah, the way this backfield's performing right now is very exciting. And Ronald Jones with those fresh legs, we'll see what he can do here in this one. This guy was fired up when Isaiah Pacheco iced the game, though, last week. It was like a touchdown call on that one, and his ability to finish the game was awesome. Hopefully all of our runners today can have a good day against the Texans' rush defense that currently ranks last in the NFL.
Well, when you look at it, they have given up 67 runs of 10 yards or more. 13 of those are over 20 yards on a play. So you can not only run the ball, you can get chunk runs. And we've seen Pacheco and McKinnon do that, either on screen passes or runs, because I almost count a screen pass as a run. But you can get chunks against these guys. Now, I respect their defense, but this is the one big cavity in there when you analyze them, is the fact that they do give up chunk runs, and that's a big reason they're 1-11-1.
Yeah, their defense overall, the numbers aren't great. It's the number 26 scoring defense in the NFL, but they have been good, as you alluded to, in some critical areas. This is the number 7 red zone defense in the NFL, and like you said earlier, they forced 17 takeaways. That's 10th in the NFL. The record doesn't necessarily show it, but they've fought on defense this year.
Well, and they're good when they get to the red zone. I know we'll jump into that in a second, but there's a guy that deserves mention here while we're discussing that. It's a Malik Collins. He played high school football in Kansas City on the Missouri side at Center High School, played for the Yellow Jackets. He was 48-0 as a wrestler. Good career at Nebraska. Then he went to Dallas, but now he's flourishing. And I bet 4 different offensive coaches this week told me about Malik Collins and mentioned it. So the Chiefs have to account for him in the middle of that Houston defense.
Yeah, that defense was a big reason why they were in that game last week against Dallas. Another reason why was the 2-quarterback system they deployed against Dallas, and the Cowboys weren't expecting that at all. They expected just Davis Mills to be the quarterback, but it was also Jeff Driscoll last week. They split the snaps exactly down the middle. Both Driscoll and Davis Mills had exactly 33 snaps last week. Driscoll came up from the practice squad for that game, and he was added to the active roster this week, so we're expecting to see him again. Mills is more of your traditional pocket passer. He started a bunch of games for them this year. Jeff Driscoll is more of a read option kind of guy, a running quarterback, but he also threw the ball quite a bit last week against the Cowboys. Had a 28-yard touchdown to Armani Rogers in that game. What are you expecting here for the dual quarterback system, and how can we slow it down?
Well, it stunned Dallas last week, let's be honest. Like, when that happens in this league is so systematic in planning. When you throw something like that, that's not just a trick play, but like a trick whole game thing.
Whole new element?
It threw them off. And you're right. I mean, I've never seen this in 29 years in this league, where Driscoll played 32 snaps, Davis Mills played 32 snaps. But you alluded to it. Driscoll's not just a runner. If you think of a Taysom Hill with the Saints, he can also throw it. He's a great athlete. They were going to move him to tight end. So he's that good of an athlete. And then Davis Mills, we know, is skilled. But he's coming out of Stanford, highly regarded. So the Chiefs have really had to, do 2 game plans here. It's put a lot of pressure on Steve Spagnuolo and his defensive staff this week.
But at least it's on film, right? They're expecting it here in this game. I think you mentioned it. Because the Cowboys weren't expecting it, that's why it was so effective. The Chiefs had all week to plan for this, so that's a good note at least. The Texans are missing a bunch of players today, though, regardless of whoever is at quarterback for them. Perhaps their 3 best offensive weapons will not play in this game. That includes running back Dameon Pierce. He hurt his ankle late in last week's game against the Cowboys. Just a tremendous player at running back for them. More than 1,000 scrimmage yards this year. He's not going to play here today. And also wide receivers Brandon Cooks and Nico Collins. Cooks leads this team in receptions and receiving yards, and Collins is second in receptions and receiving yards. Those 3 players, so Cooks, Collins, and Pierce, account for 54% of their scrimmage yards offensively this season. It's already the number 30 scoring offense in the NFL, and you take those guys out of it, that's pretty tough.
Yeah, Pierce is a rising star now, and doing what he's done. He's the valedictorian of these rookie running backs. Pacheco's he's right in there, right, as a top 5 finalist, but at the top is Dameon Pierce. So that's a blow even bigger than the receivers. We know Cooks and what he's done. He's been around this league a long time. When you look at what they can do to counter that, though, you look at Chris Moore, the wide receiver who last week had 124 yards against the Cowboys. He's very capable. Philip Dorsett the second. I look for them they've got 5 tight ends, I think, in this game that could be active. So I look for them to kind of play pass and mix it up with that 2-quarterback system. But if they do play pass, Chris Moore could be their guy.
Yeah, it's good to mention Chris Moore. Best game of his career last week, and guys stepped up for them last week. They were good on third down against the Cowboys. This is the number 31 third down offense in the NFL, but they were 7 of 15 against Dallas last week. So it's all to say that the Chiefs still need to take care of business in this game. It doesn't matter that Houston's having a tough season and missing a lot of their best players. The Chiefs have to come into this game and take care of business. The pass rush in particular got its mojo back a little bit last week. Let's keep that going here today.
Yeah, I think Houston will max protect a lot today, so it may not be a 6-sack game, but also stay within your scheme. I look for screens from Houston as well. Remember the last week's screen, Marlon Mack for the Denver Broncos. That's just kind of losing like your positioning on the field. So for the Chiefs, it's not only chasing sacks, it's doing your business. It's like hitting home runs. If you chase sacks, many times you can get into issues. Think of the Bengals game. But if you don't think about hitting home runs as a baseball player, you just hit line drives, that's when you hit home runs. Just stay within the scheme today. Be aware of the 2-quarterback system, and the sacks will come.
Yeah, sometimes the most dangerous teams are the teams with nothing to lose. That's certainly Houston this year. And for more on this Houston squad and how they've fought all year and the possibility about another 2-quarterback system here today, I caught up with Aditi Kinkhabwala from CBS Sports earlier this week. All right, we're joined now by Aditi Kinkhabwala from CBS Sports. And Aditi, I want to ask you about the dual quarterback system the Texans ran last week against the Cowboys. Almost led to a big victory over Dallas. They gave both Davis Mills and Jeff Driscoll snaps in that game. Are you expecting something similar here in this game?
I think this is one of those things that it worked to some degree, so why not try it again? And I think it's also one of those, you never know what to expect with the Texans. I mean, you don't know if Kyle Allen is going. You don't know if Davis Mills is going. I think that the Texans right now, sitting at 1-11-1, are in a position to try whatever they can possibly try. And I'll tell you this, Davis Mills is a very confident young man who, quite frankly, hasn't played a lot of football. I mean, he had only about 400 pass attempts at Stanford before he comes into the league. He played some last year. He obviously played some this year. The decision was made a few weeks ago to have him kind of sit back and give way to Kyle Allen. Part of that is production. The Texans offense was just as anemic as could be, but I remember talking to offensive coordinator Pep Hamilton before a game, and he was like, this is not us necessarily writing Davis Mills off. There could be value in sort of stepping back and watching the game. This isn't a young man, as I said, who's played a lot. And, you know, Nick Caserio, the Texans GM, has pretty open in saying that quarterback is one of those positions that you can't just write off immediately. And there's no exact science to knowing whether a guy has it or not. It's almost like you know or you don't. And so, okay, they want to keep giving him a chance. He's a young man who handled his benching in a good way, and you clearly believe that he's still got something. And then Jeff Driscoll, I mean, I remember when he was in Cincinnati, an assistant coach in Cincinnati telling me how much he liked him and how much potential he thought he had. So I don't know, Jeff Driscoll being elevated to the 53-man roster makes you think that, okay, there's some plan to use him in some kind of way. Yeah, what do you have to lose? You're at home. You're facing an amazing team that's really starting to fire in all cylinders, who's starting to get healthy, who is ostensibly one of the 2 best teams in the AFC. Try whatever you can, right? And if anything, it's getting evaluations of players, because you know that this Texans team is not going to look the same next year.
Yeah, with that in mind, I've really respected the creativity and the fight these Texans have showed all year long. Again, almost led to a victory over the Cowboys last week. When you've been around the Texans, what stood out to you about their ability to fight all year long despite their record?
I think, frankly, I think it's just that. This is a very, very young team. And most of these guys, I saw them a few weeks ago in Miami, and that is about the time when they would be getting ready to do their bowl practices. Rookies are done with their season at that point, but these guys were showing up with energy. They were showing up ready to go, and they were continuing to fight. And in fact, that game down in Miami got out to a 30-0 lead at halftime. And in the second half, the Texans played better, and they started making it a little bit more of a game. And that Tua Tagovailoa was taken out of the game. And afterwards, he said that there was some conversation that if the game got closer, he could have gone back in. And that shows, okay, we're not giving up. And that's what you want out of a young team like the Texans. And that is indeed a credit to Lovie Smith and his staff that these guys are playing. It's also a credit to, and I'd mentioned this earlier to you, a veteran player like a Jerry Hughes, who's teaching these young guys, you're putting things on tape, not just for now, but for your future and for 31 other teams. So you appreciate that. And I'm sure that Coach Reid, that Andy Reid has made that point this week, that don't take them lightly just because of their record.
Yeah, that sentiment is so important because in the NFL, it doesn't matter if you're 10-3 like the Chiefs or 11-1 like the Texans. The margin for error is so small in the NFL, and the Chiefs have to take care of business here in this one against an opponent that is having a rough season so far, but has fought in every single game. Aditi, awesome stuff. Really appreciate your time.
I so appreciate your having me. Thanks so much, and I hope I get to see you soon.
All right, great stuff there from Aditi. We just got the inactives for today's game, and there's some good news for the Kansas City Chiefs. So the names we were watching coming into this one, wide receiver Kadarius Toney was questionable coming in with that hamstring injury, has not played in 3 weeks. He is active in today's game, so excited to see Kadarius out there for the Chiefs here today. And also defensive tackle Chris Jones was sick, popped up on the injury report on Friday with an illness. He was questionable. He is also good to go. So Kadarius Toney and Chris Jones are both active. A bit of housekeeping here. You won't see McCole Hardman on the inactives list, but he is not going to play here today. He remains on injured reserve. The way the rules work, he's practicing for the Chiefs right now, but has to be activated from IR before he can play. So he's not going to officially be on the inactives report, but McCole will not play here today. Hopefully we see McCole next week. But good news with Kadarius Toney and Chris Jones playing here today.
Yeah, it's awesome. Really, when you get this late into the season and you look at your injury report, and it's really pretty clean except for McCole Hardman, expect to get him back, as you said. Just the converse with the Houston Texans. One thing I did not mention that I wanted to was about the pressure of the Texans. So one of the issues today for the Chiefs protecting Patrick Mahomes. The pressure rate for the Houston Texan defense is 31.9%. That's third in the league. Only Dallas and Philadelphia are better than these guys. So protect Pat at all costs.
Absolutely, and they're missing one of their starting guards in this game. We'll jump into the Texans inactives because as good as the Chiefs news is, the Texans news is not good, and that's been the story of their season so far. They're missing guard Kenyon Green in this game with an ankle injury. He's not going to play. He was a first-round pick this past spring. I mentioned Pierce, Collins, and Cooks. They're obviously not going to play here in this game. Cornerback Derek Stingley, the number 3 overall pick in this year's draft, he is out with a hamstring injury, and also Steven Nelson, former Chief at corner, has a foot injury. He's not going to play in this game. So on both sides of the ball, these guys are missing some significant players.
Let's just boil this down. Think of this. The top 2 wide receivers, the top running back, the top rookie running back in this league, the left guard, both corners are gone. I mean, this is rough for them, but don't sit there and relax and just have chips and dip the rest of the day. You got to be on point. Just go back and listen to watch the first 10 minutes of this show. And again, history's on the line today for the Chiefs. Take it. Get it done.
There are no gimmies in the NFL,
no,
right?
Sir.
So National Football League, there's no gimme, but this Texans team has fought all year long. But if the Chiefs can take care of business in this game, it's a hat game for the Chiefs. We can leave Houston with a 7th consecutive division title. For Mitch Holthus, I'm Matt McMullen. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Let's go get a victory.